quick announcements on my part. So as you all know, later today at 5 o'clock, we have our AA election where you guys get to vote on our future president and vice president. So make sure to join and listen to their speech and vote anonymously. And after that, we have our executive application that is due today at 5, also with our director application that is due on the 13th. So make sure to apply as soon as possible.
Okay, and don't forget on this Wednesday, we have a meeting with the NGO. And on the Friday night, it's just a virtual movie night with the AA member. And so next Monday will be the last meeting, is the transition meeting with the new AA board member. So we'll encourage everyone to have the camera on, and please wait until the end to ask questions with raise the hand feature on the Zoom. Without further ado, Nia, can you take?
Without further ado, we have Keith Hinds from CohnReznick presenting on how to prepare for internship and full-time position. Please, Keith, you can take over.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate everybody joining. I know it's a busy time of the year for all of you. So I was telling the group a little bit beforehand that we got kind of two routes we can go down for this. I do have a PowerPoint we can go through and we can talk about it, and that can help build off questions. Or we can have more of a dialogue if you guys are open to that and asking questions, or a little bit of both. So I'll let you start thinking about that. But to introduce myself a little bit more, I'm the campus recruiting manager at CohnReznick. So I oversee our campus recruiting strategy across the firm. I actually sit over on the East Coast though, doing this presentation from New Jersey. So it's nice, I guess one nice aspect of being virtual and being able to join events across the country and help out with this. So I've been with the firm for about three and a half years now, I guess getting close to four years. In my time in my professional career, I actually, prior to this role, was campus recruiting at another public accounting firm for about 3.5 or 4 years as well. So I have quite a bit of experience of dealing with internships and entry levels and young professionals, and just really getting their career started. And that's really, the hope for this presentation or this conversation today, is to really hopefully help you all learn a couple of things about what's going to set you up for success moving forward into your internship or potentially entry level role. I want to keep it pretty broad in the sense that it doesn't necessarily, everything I talk about is not necessarily going to have to deal with just CohnReznick. These are tips and tricks that hopefully will help you no matter where you're going, no matter what firm you're going to, or even if you're not taking the public accounting route. I think there's hopefully 1 or 2 things you can all take away from this to really help you in the development of your career. So I guess I'll get started with the presentation, and if we don't go through the whole thing, I'm completely fine with that. If you guys have questions, feel free to unmute yourself, ask questions. I'll also pull up the chat box so I can see it as well. So if you have questions, feel free to do so. So let me share my screen quick. Can you all see that? Yeah, all right. According to the people I can see, they're all nodding their heads. So I'll take their word.
Yes, we can see it.
All right, perfect. And I got the chat box up, so if you don't feel like unmuting yourself to ask a question, definitely just feel free to chat. So what we wanted to talk about was preparing for an internship or for an entry-level role. And I think one thing that really for interns and entry levels to really think about is there's honestly not a ton you can do before your internship to really prepare yourself from a technical standpoint. Okay, especially in the public accounting world, a lot of what you're going to learn is going to be on the job. So when I talk to students, really the things that you need to focus on and that you can better prepare yourself for are more so from your like soft skills, communication skills, professionalism, which we'll talk a little bit about today, and some things there. So I want to look at, and what we'll talk about are really what's going to make you successful as you enter into that role, rather than really before the internship. Because before the internship, again, we're not necessarily expecting you to know a whole lot from a technical standpoint, right? So making the most of your internship in the start of your entry level career. So my thing goes. So first thing, what does professionalism mean to you? What are characteristics of unprofessional behavior? What are characteristics of professional behavior? So I'm posing this question out there to you all. What does professionalism mean to you? And you can't be shy, because this is going to be a long call if if you are. All right, meeting deadline. Yeah, that's fine. Anything that you think make it revolves around professionalism. Feel free to type it in the chat.
Yeah, be calm when talking with the client.
Integrity. What was that? Showing respect, respectful. Good. What else? Team player. Good. Dressing appropriately. Mindful of others. Be approachable. Great. Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of these. I think that all kind of fall into that bubble of professionalism. We're going to touch on a few of these as we go through the presentation here. Really kind of dive in into what's really important and revolving around those. I'm not going to have you type into the chat what's unprofessional. But start to think about these things in your mind as we're going through, and some of the things you can phrase your questions around. So professional presence, exhibit, by definition, it's exhibiting courtesy, conscientiousness, and a generally business-like manner in the workplace. A professional is not a label you give yourself. It's a description you hope others will apply to you, and I think that's a great quote for you all to keep in mind. Professional presence really says a lot about you. It goes into how people take you, how clients look at you, how your team members think of you in the workplace, all of those things, and a lot of what you mentioned in the chat here all kind of comes into play in the development of your professional presence. So we'll talk about a couple of the key characteristics. You guys mentioned some of these already. So being dependable, this is incredibly important. You want to be able to have people that want to be able to be somebody that people can rely on, especially coming into the start of your career. You want to be that person that if somebody is asking you to get something done, you are getting that done. Make smart decisions, be responsible, do what is best for the firm, always kind of having the firm in mind, making sure that any decision you make, you understand that you are now representing the firm or the company as well. So always keep that in mind. Being adaptable, I would say this is huge coming into the start of your career, and honestly, moving even forward on after that. I would say we all had to figure out how adaptable we really were over the past couple of years, and how we were able to adjust and change and really thrive in the new work environment that was completely different. So always something to make sure that you are keeping in mind, and something that we definitely look for in successful interns and entry levels. You want to be able to be trusted. Again, kind of to the dependable standpoint, you want to be somebody that people can rely on. I saw integrity somewhere here in the chat, right? Somebody that has a strong integrity, that people trust you're making the right decisions. They trust that you are getting your work done where they don't have to monitor you the whole time you're at work, right? Those are all all important things. So along with trust, treat people the way you would expect to be treated. I mean, this stuff sounds pretty obvious, right? But it's important to really think about as you enter the workforce. You're meeting these people oftentimes for the first time. This is going to be, the start of your career. You can have an impact on what people's perception of you is. It's kind of like a fresh start. If you think about it, right? I always tell people, when after college, my first job, I always say was when I kind of grew up a little bit. I think that I was able to kind of take a fresh outlook on who I was, how I portrayed myself. These people at work didn't know about my past. They didn't know what I had done or what I was like in school. And, I think this is a good opportunity for you as you start your career to kind of change that perception if needed, and something to think about. So I'm going through this fast, so you guys have questions. Start thinking of questions for me as we're going through or afterwards, because I do want to leave it open at the end for some questions. So we'll talk about professional etiquette and responsibility. So these are just going to be some helpful tips for you. We'll talk about each one as you go into the start of your career again, whether that be intern or entry level. So workstation, this is kind of ever changing now with the virtual and hybrid model approach that most places are moving to. But it's important that while you're at work, you're truly getting your work done. It's not a place to socialize, although a lot of socialization happens, and that's fine. What I typically recommend, especially early on in your career, is, when you're at work, you should be working. And I think, again, that sounds obvious, but it's important to really go in with that mindset. Go into that mindset, whether you're at home, whether you're in the office, regardless of where you are. That's how you can be more productive. That's how you don't have to work as many hours, right? When you go in with the mindset that, hey, from 9 to 5, I'm focused on my work and what needs to get done. Now, that does not mean that you will never be able to socialize or interact with your colleagues. That happens quite a bit, but just always going with the mindset that, hey, this is my time to work. It's not my time to be looking at Instagram or TikTok or whatever you guys are into, whatever you guys are into. Make sure you're always keeping that in mind. Some of this other things are really geared more towards like being in the office. Obviously, be mindful of all this stuff. I'm somebody that has a loud voice, so like my wife can hear me downstairs when I give presentations and things like that. My voice carries. So just always be mindful of that. If you need to hop into an office to take a call or something, get out of the queue or wherever, you can be in a quiet place so you're not disturbing, others that are trying to work. Email etiquette. So this is the biggest thing, and I thought that honestly this was a big change for me coming out of school. I feel like I never emailed, and if I did, it was like it was not professional in the sense of how like I would write out sentences and things like that. We live and die by email now. I mean, it's how everyone communicates. So, make sure that you are being responsive to your email. Check your email, making sure you're checking your email throughout the day. Try to be as prompt as you can be with your emails. Definitely recommend rereading prior to sending, especially if you're one of those people who is typing and will start thinking of other things and then type what you're thinking of. I'm one of those people. So make sure you're rereading everything, especially when it's going out to a client or like a manager, things like that. Make sure it makes sense. Think about the target audience. again, kind of understanding who your email is going to. Is it professional? Is it easy to read? Is it long-winded? You know, some individuals would prefer, you know, you kind of getting right to the point and laying stuff out bullet point by bullet point. Others like a little bit of fluff, you know, when you're sending them an email and asking them about their weekend and how things are going. So know your target audience and approach them as such. Phone, video call etiquette. You know, again, you have a life outside of work. You know, focus on work while you're at work, but we understand that things are going to come up, things are going to happen. Try to keep it to a minimum. Really make sure that you are staying prompt to any voicemails or phone calls that you're getting. Especially, again, at the start of your career, you want to be somebody that is responsive. You want to be somebody that people can rely on getting answers from. Social media etiquette. So this is probably the biggest one for college students to keep in mind as you're entering the workforce. Consider all your actions from a professional standpoint. So for me, when I was in school, I got rid of my Facebook when I started looking for jobs. And it's not because I was like posting ridiculous stuff on there, but you know, you can get tagged in something, you know, it's not just what you post, it's what other people post that you're following and things like that. So always be mindful of what you're putting out there. You know, understand that as a recruiter, I am not going out and looking at like your Facebook or your Twitter or whatever. I don't honestly have time to do that. And I personally, from my standpoint, I'm not concerned with what you're doing. However, I cannot control what everyone else does. We don't recommend professionals and our client service professionals looking at people's personal accounts. Does it happen? Probably. I mean, I think unfortunately that's just kind of the nature of the beast, and how easily you can just Google someone's name and their Facebook or whatever will come up. So just always be mindful of what you're putting out there. Also understand that once you have a job, that you know, and I mentioned this before, you're not just representing yourself. You know, you are representing the firm as well. You are a CohnReznick employee, especially on LinkedIn, where it is really geared toward professionalism. So just always kind of keep that in mind. If you are gonna, I mean, I have an Instagram. I'm not a big social media guy, but like I do, it's private. People can't see it. You know, always just be mindful of that as well. If you're gonna have something, you know, try to set it personal, set it as private so that people aren't able to view it. All right, I'm gonna stop here at social media etiquette. Any questions on this? Because I feel like this is probably the biggest one that comes up from an internship entry level perspective. No.
Yes, okay. I had the quick question is, so how can we keep our personal social media outside of the workplace? Just like because right now everyone can easily find someone on the internet. So how can we keep it outside of the workplace? It's not interfere with the workplace.
So I mean, I think the biggest thing is obviously just monitor your settings. You know, keep it private. Is the easiest way to do it. I know then you're probably not going to get as many followers as you want, right? If it's private, so you know, it's just a price you have to pay. You have to pay to make sure that you know you're seen in a positive manner, in a professional manner. For me personally, in my mind, I'm somebody who can separate what you do at work versus what you do in your personal life. But I'm not everybody. And as an intern and entry level at the start of your career, you want to make sure that you're presenting yourself in the best way possible. And so I always recommend making it private. I can't make you or make anybody, just like I can't make people not look you up, on Google or Facebook or whatever. So just always be mindful of it. Not everybody is able to separate the professional from the personal. And so be mindful of that. I would say the same also, like as you start to become friendly with people at work and things like that, and maybe they add you on or want to add you on Facebook or Instagram or whatever you guys have, remember who you added, remember who's following you. Be careful what you post at that point too, because then you are mixing professional and personal. I think I have 2 people that I work with that I'm connected with on Instagram. One I've known for like 8 years 7 years at this point. And then the other one I'm just fairly close friends with outside of the office as well. So they know who I am, outside of work as well. But, just always be mindful of that. And, I don't want you to think that I'm encouraging you to take on a different persona at work or not be yourself at work, because that's not what I mean. You should be able to be who you are at work as well, and be in a culture that's welcoming and inviting, or you're not going to feel comfortable there. I'm just telling you to be mindful. Not everyone's the same. Not everybody thinks the same. So just be mindful of that. Okay.
Thank you, Keith, for your answer.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions on this?
I have one question. So if a coworker insists to add us in like Instagram and we don't want to be friends with them and also like private, so in your idea, how we can manage to not have them in our Instagram account?
So I would decline them. And I think I would just, shoot them a message at work and say, hey, hopefully you don't take this personally, but I, have made a kind of just a general rule of thumb that I'm not going to be adding individuals from work on my personal accounts. I mean, I think that's fine. Hopefully they respect that. I think most people will. You don't tend to get a ton of like people that you work with like requesting you to like, requesting to follow you on different social media other than LinkedIn. I think a lot of people like to have their private, right? So if they're going to request to follow you, you can follow them, right? It should be mutual. So most of the time, the people that are going to do that are people you're close with. They're going to be people that you don't mind adding. I don't think your like manager is just going to randomly add you because, but so I think, but it is okay to say that, and I think that reasoning is more than acceptable to say, hey, like this is a personal account. I kind of just made a general rule that I am keeping this private from work.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on social media? I mean, at the end of the day, I am not your parents or guardians. I'm not going to tell you what you can and cannot do. I'm just providing a little bit of advice. You just don't want something silly that maybe someone tags you in to have have people perceive you in a negative light because of it. So take with it what you may. You guys are all smart kids. You'll figure it out. For me, the answer was deleting it. I don't know though if I live now, like if I was in your shoes in school now, if we would have deleted, I feel like social media is a little bit bigger now, even than it was, when I was in school. I don't know. Do you guys even still use Facebook? Is that like still popular? Yeah. Okay. I didn't know if it was like completely TikTok now or Snapchat or like what you got going on. So, all right. So do not gossip in the office. Nah, more Instagram. All right. I'm Instagram. That's what I got, right? Okay. See, I'm up on the new social media. I don't have a TikTok though. Do not have one. All right. Do not gossip in the office. You know, I think this hopefully goes without saying. Again, you want to be seen in the best light possible. You know, avoid talking about other people in the office. Really, again, try to stay as professional as you can be in the office and workplace. It really can be perceived as negative or start to seem like it's like kind of cliquey. You know, if you're gossiping with a couple of people about, you know, other people, and, you know, ultimately it could lead people not wanting to work with you. It could lead to people not wanting to staff you on their jobs. So, you know, just be mindful of all of that. Again, especially at the start of your career. Elevator etiquette. So this is something that, you know, I didn't really, you don't really think about. This is kind of a little thing, but like, you never know who you're getting in the elevator with. And this is kind of like elevator or just out in the, you know, office space or anything like that. You'll be mindful of what you're talking about. You will be appraised to a lot of confidential material with dealing with clients and things like that. So, you know, just be mindful of where you're having these conversations, what you're talking about. You know, the last thing you need, especially as an intern, is to disclose some type of confidential information, you know, in public, or that the news gets out about something. So, you know, just always keep that in mind. Okay. So ultimately, I'm doing well on time. I wanted to keep this to a half hour and then questions after this. So make the right impression. For your internship and entry level, look at it as kind of, again, a fresh start. You're able to create kind of your own professional presence. You're able to really potentially change kind of some of the things that you've done or how you've worked in the past. It's a new opportunity for you. Put your best foot forward. Dress for success. Create a positive image. Ultimately, be yourself. Give people a good reason to remember you. So I think, you know, those are, you know, some really helpful tips that, and I'll focus on the be yourself, because I feel like during this, you kind of feel like, oh, well, you know, I normally don't do that, or, you know, I have to block my social media, or I have to worry about what I'm saying. And I don't want you all to get that impression. You know, it's important to be professional. And I would say I'm not professional in my personal life, but I know that when I step into the workplace, I need to be professional. There is a difference, but at the same time, I am who I am. I'm not going to change my personality, you know, to work somewhere, and that's why I like CohnReznick, right? They understand who I am as a person. They respect how I act, and they respect my personality, and that I like to joke, and that I'm laid back, and that, you know, this is just kind of how I work and how I operate. And so you ultimately want to be yourself at the end of the day. Don't hide from who you are, because that's what makes you you. That's what makes you successful. That's what made that firm, that company, want to hire you. But just understand that there is a difference, and be mindful of that. Okay, understand that you're an intern or an entry level. You're just starting your career. There is a difference with how, you know, you can act as you grow in your career, become more comfortable in your career, understand the work that you're doing better. But I do want to stress that you should never shy away from being who you are. You know, during those internships or at the start of your career, just always be mindful that it is a professional setting. Okay, so that's the presentation part of it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I also wanted to just touch on a couple things that I mentioned in the sense that coming into and preparing for your internship and the start of your career, I mentioned that we're not expecting a ton from a technical standpoint, and most public accounting firms aren't. The reason for that is we have pretty robust learning and development teams. We have great group of client service professionals that are here to train you and get you up to speed. So what we need from you is to really come in with the mindset that you're here to work, a mindset that you're ready to learn, that you want to learn, you want to absorb as much as you can throughout your internship, and really take all of that and build off of it. That's what we need from you in preparation of the internship, is really just putting yourself in the right mindset that you're coming into an internship ultimately with the mindset that you want to learn, absorb as much as you can, work hard, and hopefully get that full-time offer at the end. That's ultimately what you're looking for an internship. But I think sometimes students get so concerned with the technical aspect of it that you kind of psych yourselves out a little bit. And ultimately, the stuff I touched on here today, focusing on your communication, your professionalism, being adaptable, being responsible, allowing people to trust in you, those are what's going to make you successful. That's what's going to make you successful in the start of your career. The technical stuff will come. You're all smart students. You're all doing well in your classes, things like that. If you're getting hired, we have faith that we can teach you those technical aspects of it. It's up to you to kind of deliver those other things. We can provide help for you to be trainings to adapt and things like that. But, ultimately we're going to rely on you to have those other skills, and to be people that we can depend on and trust. So that's what you have to keep in mind as you start an internship or your entry-level job. Okay. So I always talk too much during these things. So I want to open it up to questions. It can be about preparation for your internship, preparation for entry-level job. It could be about anything else that I talked on today, or just really anything in general. I've been doing this for my 7th year in campus recruiting. So I've seen it all, and definitely more than happy to answer anything that you might have questions about. Can you elaborate more on level of expectancy as an incoming first year full-time compared to an internship? Honestly, it's not much different. It's really not. I would say that I would say from a professional standpoint, we expect more than an intern. Okay, so the things I touched on, we expect you to have more of those skills than we would from an intern. From a technical standpoint, I mean, in an ideal world, you would have had an internship beforehand that, showed you to the public accounting world or whatever profession you're going into. But at the end of the day, again, we treat our entry-level associates as if you don't know really much, and that we're going to have to teach you everything that you need to know from a technical standpoint. But we would expect you to come in with a little bit more professional knowledge, a little bit more professional presence, I guess you could say, everything I kind of touched on here, because we're making a much larger commitment to you. We're bringing you on as a full-time associate, rather than an 8-week internship where we're evaluating you through that process. So I would say that's kind of the difference. Internships are valuable, for a first year, even if it's not in public accounting and that's kind of what you're pursuing. Even just having something in business in general to get that work acumen and experience and being a part of a professional setting, it helps a lot, in understanding how things kind of work and how to navigate an office place and things like that. So hopefully that answers your question. What other questions?
Yes, I have a question. So, Keith, can you tell us about the difference between the entry level of the different area like consult, advisory, assurance, and tax? This the entry level of difference between the three area, or they had the same, they got the same thing, same difficulty?
So yeah, so I mean, we do hire into advisory, assurance, and tax services. As far as like expectations of the individual coming into any one of those, I would say audit and tax, I would put at the same exact level. I think that everything I described today is relevant for audit and tax. I think advisory, depending on what you're going into, I would say there is where we do look for a little bit more experience from a technical side, because our advisory roles, we don't hire a ton into. If we are very niche focused in what they do. So for those entry level roles, not interns, for entry level roles, we would expect some more experience or relatable experience to what it is you're going into. Audit and tax, though, I would put in the same realm with everything I've kind of touched on today.
Thank you very much.
For spring semester, are you hiring more interns or full-time? So we will be. We'll be hiring more full-time individuals for the fall of 2022. As far as internships, for the summer, it would depend on the office location. We might have a few still open, but that I would have to check on, and I would just recommend going to our website to see, because every office is a little bit different with where we are for summer interns. For entry level though, associates, especially in California, we'll have openings.
I have a question. So for the students who are going to start their full-time positions, do you have any tips for them to not get exhausted during the busy season?
To not get exhausted.
Like, to not get exhausted or like stressed out during the busy season, because it's something new.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I'm not on the practice side. I haven't gone through it. I think I've worked with people that have gone through it. Some of their recommendations are, one of the biggest things was kind of what I said before. When you're at work, focus on work. You'll be surprised how much time is like wasted, whether that be like looking at your phone or looking at something on the computer, or talking with somebody. I catch myself doing it now. You'll get on, you have a quick question for somebody, and you'll be a half hour later, you're like, oh, we just spoke for a half hour and really got nothing accomplished, right? So during that time, you'll know when it's busy season, you'll know that you have a deadline coming up. Really make it a point to focus on your work. I know it might not be the most fun thing, but that's the easiest way to lessen your hours, right? Is if you actually focus on what's at hand. So that's a big thing. The other thing would be to really prioritize your work and what needs to get done, and really map that out for yourself, especially if you're working on multiple clients at a time or things like that. I would say also know what works for you. Take time during the day that makes sense. Make sure you're getting away from your computer for a little bit. So, for me, right now, this is technically like my busy season, right? It's that fall semester. I'm working. I mean, I work no less than 50 hours a week since September, right? So for me though, it's the way I work them, right? So I'll work from like 9 to 5 and then stop for 3 hours, have dinner, put my son to bed, and hop on my computer again, right? So it breaks up the day a little bit for me. It allows me to decompress a little bit, which helps me. Some people would rather just like to work through and be like, I'm going to work for 11 hours and just be done and that's it, and eat dinner and go to bed or whatever. So figure out what works for you. But I would say really focusing on your work when it's time for work and prioritizing what needs to get done are probably going to be the most helpful things.
Thank you.
Knowing what you know now, what would you have done different as a starting associate? Well, I'm on the campus recruiting side, so I didn't have to go through everything you all will go through or necessarily know what you guys will have to know. But I think, coming in early on in your career, I would say I wish I did a little bit more networking, and really getting to know more people in the sense of like what they do, how they got to where they are. I think that's incredibly valuable. I think building your network within the firm, within the office is extremely valuable. I see that now, knowing the number of people I know. I wish I would have started doing that earlier on, and having those resources. You never know when, maybe you'll have a question, you'll be like, oh yeah, well, actually, I know this guy that can help me out with that. Or, if you're looking for a different industry to get into and you've networked and met somebody that works in the renewable energy industry and you're like, oh, let me reach out to so-and-so to see if he has any additional work that I can do. So I would say, networking from the sense of really just getting to know people and understand who people are, what they do, how they got to where they are is very valuable. And I really wish I did a little bit more of that earlier on, because I see the value of it now. I do a lot of it now in my role, but I wish I would have started earlier.
Thank you, Keith, for your answer. So
Yeah,
if
no problem.
anyone had a question, just write down on the chat or you open the mic. Feel free to open your mic.
Thank you so much, Keith, for joining and telling us all about the internship and the full-time. Really quickly again, tonight at 5 o'clock, we have our AA election for our future president and vice president. So please make sure to join and vote on our future board. Along with that, at 5 o'clock today, we have our executive application that is due. And on 13th, our director application is due. So please apply as soon as possible. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for joining. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you very much, Keith.
Thank
Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.